Ooh, what's happening, man? This is later than I usually do. Was trying to figure out a YouTube live with somebody, and that did not work. So I'm about an hour and a half behind where I'm usually at. But I'm going to talk about what we were going to talk about, and I don't really have words for it to like describe, or I have words to describe it. I don't have a name for it. The best thing I can say to convey it is dead internet theory. But it's not just pertaining to the internet, and it's not just pertaining to that specific explanation. But it's a good, like, kind of qualifier. Uh, Man, so it's come to my attention. I don't know if I think I told you all that I worked for, I did. I told you all that I worked for Schmoogle, right? I worked for Schmoogle. And I thought I was just selling internet. But it turns out that I was working for, I guess I was working on a project that was training their AI system called Duplex. Duplex was supposed to be what they positioned it at the time was it was supposed to be a service where you have like AI schedule your clients for appointments or answer your phones so you don't have to, things like that. And so what they told us was that we were answering inbound calls to not schedule, to sign people up for their internet service, right? And I started to notice weird shit about the calls. Like, they would sometimes repeat themselves. They would sometimes answer your question or your statement with something that would make zero sense. Sometimes it would just straight glitch out. And I started going to the management and be like, hey man, what the fuck's up with these calls? And after a while, I just started saying, hey, these are fake calls, right? And it kind of became a game to me because was, I took offense to it. You know what I mean? Once I made the connection, like, oh, I'm making this thing duplex because I was already like this. So I'm researching stuff and I come across this duplex project. It has nothing to, at least as far as I know, it has nothing to do with my job. And then I make the connection in my head like, oh, I'm fucking working on this right now. And so I get mad and I start going to the management. I'm like, so this we're working on this, right? We're working on duplex, and they would never answer me. At least not at first. After a while, I think I started making enough ruckus in front of the other, like my coworkers, that one of them kind of pulled me aside and admitted it, but didn't admit it, for lack of a better way to say it. I tell that story because I was going through other stuff at that time that I don't like thinking about if I can help it. So the duplex part also left my memory, right? Don't think about it. Recently, I had a conversation on a Discord, and recently means today. I don't know why I said recently. I was having a conversation, audio, like talking, and I'm pretty fucking sure I was talking to a non-real person today. I'm almost, look, I remember how that felt and how fucking creepy it was, how weird it was. I'm pretty sure I was talking to a non-person today. The same shit. I would say something, their response would make zero sense. He kept repeating himself, at certain points. He would, and then there was another aspect to it that made me not sure though, because he's trying to get everyone to listen to this, YouTube channel. He says the theory really like resonated for him and that he thinks it he kept saying stuff as if it's true for all of us. And I can be stubborn. I can be stubborn, so I was like, hey bro, you keep saying we, Oh, I remember what it was actually. He kept saying he wanted to go back to the time when we were apes. And I was like, bruh, I have never, I'm not connected to apes. I don't know what to tell you. If you are, good for you. That's cool. And then he was like, no, but not like dumb apes. I don't think that they were dumb. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. I still don't feel, I'm not connected to apes. My consciousness, this being that I am has never been connected to apes. And it just kept going. And it was, at some point I was like, very quickly actually, I was like, let's agree to disagree. And he was like, okay, and then kept going. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? And coming to that conclusion made me realize that it's very like, think about all these weird interactions that beings are having from time to time, right? Especially within these communities that we're in, these circles that we're in, where we're trying to get the truth, we're trying to understand ourselves and our surroundings better. There are weird interactions happening more and more. There are more platforms and channels just kind of popping up more and more. And while I believe that a lot of that is genuine, I won't comment on whether or not I think their subject matter is, dogmatic or nuts sounding. But still, everybody has a right to think what they think, It's a walk, not a run, I guess. But it just made me think, oh, this is like a material version of dead internet theory. It creates, and to add another dimension to it, how would you accomplish such a feat, right? Even just on the internet, how would you accomplish such a feat? You have to use deception and artificial intelligence. And so in order to do that in the material, not on the internet, but in the material, you would do the same thing, but you would also use technology. So a lot of the things that beings, and everyone is kind of talking about this, everyone posts like, hey, they said this was happening, but this was happening. Look, they said these people were outside of this Capitol building, but it was just two people instead of a whole mob. And they were surrounded by, photographers. It was a photo op. Little shit like that. It's both analog and digital simulation of reality. It's being both physically, materially, and digitally crafted to make you view things a very specific way. That's why when I talk about all of these weather phenomena that are supposedly happening, including, solar events, CMEs and all that stuff that many are very focused on, it starts to get, a little wobbly. It's a wobbler. Because in one sense, sure, you step outside, you can feel the sun, you can see the sun, but within that same statement, I can show you articles of them talking about making sun simulators from 2017. Years ago, talking about sun simulators in China and Japan. No, the moon simulator was in Japan. Sun simulator was in China, if I'm not mistaken. So with that being said, is that the sun? Because many are saying, hey, it looks so different. It feels like a heat lamp. When the sun goes down, it doesn't stay the same temperature like it used to. I have a very specific memory of most of my childhood and beyond that, to be honest, until fairly recently. During the summer, do you or do you not remember that the sun would warm the ground? More specifically, possibly, it would warm the pavement. You could let the sun go down And right after it goes down, or as it's going down, you could touch the pavement and feel the warmth, right? Now, as soon as the sun goes down, the temperature changes almost instantly, instantaneously. That is a different type of energy. It's not the same energy as the original sun, or whatever you want to call it. There are so many things like that now that, you know, it contributes to why I even started talking, why I even started this channel. It's unsettling, it's disturbing, and I want to figure it out, essentially. But this, I say dead internet theory because you can see the correlation between the two, but there's not a word for that outside of simulation. But that doesn't encapsulate it either. You see what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't encapsulate it either. And so I hear, I'm not saying that this is something that I'm coming up with, you know, all on my own or whatever. There are others that are talking about aspects of it. Like Jason from Archaics. He did an episode of his show where he asked AI what it would be like, or what it would need to do to take over this reality or something. He asked a very specific set of 2 questions, only 2 questions. And it gave him a whole like hour and a half worth of scenarios that AI could and would do in the scenario of trying to take over and subvert this reality. And I recommend hearing it out just for the sake of research, because the things that it said, not only were those very real answers, but many of them have already happened. Many of them have already happened. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, what the fuck? This is uncomfortable. You know, it covered pretty much many things, if not all the things that you see now. And to make another connection, it also speaks of this in the manifesto written by the Rockefellers. You know, I don't know if there's a print version of the Rockefeller Manifesto, but there's definitely a couple videos of some chicks reading it. And that is an aspect of what they, you know, declared as their mission, their goal. Essentially was to confuse the rest to the point where they wouldn't know what was up or down. They wouldn't know what was real or fake. They wouldn't know what was right or wrong. And you can kind of see that in how things are now, you know? And it all depends on your perception. It all depends on your experience. There are things that we all see happening or that we all can reference, and then there's shit that's just kind of happening to you or in your vicinity. But it's a micro, macro, you know? To me, personally, if someone says, oh, I don't notice anything happening, I just stop talking, because that's wild as fuck to say. If you think that now is like 2011, if you think that now is the same as 2011, same, we have zero to talk about. We have zero to talk about, because I don't even know how to qualify that, and I can't make any sense of that whatsoever. But yeah, you know, not even going into the concept of, you know, there are a lot of beings talking about NPCs and all that shit right now. I'm not talking about that. At least not this time. I'm talking about, you know, situational stuff. I'm talking about what you see on the internet, which very quickly affects your perception. You may not think it does, but for instance, if you're on whatever, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever the fuck you like using, Twitter, and it starts saying, oh, this entire country was flooded, you don't say to yourself, damn, if that's real, that sucks. You'd say to yourself, holy shit, that whole country's flooded. Because it's become our news. It's become our news source. I'm making a very, very concerted effort with others to remind myself and them that you don't know that to be true. Just because, even if it's video, you know, you don't know that to be true. For instance, the other day they were like, 15 earthquakes happened in California, and made it seem like California is just fucking, you know, sunken San Andreas, like the rocks climbing fucking buildings and saving bitches and shit. But the reality is, though there may have been some earthquakes, I go to Long Beach Griffey's IG Live, and this dude's just walking and talking about positivity. You know? So just because you see something doesn't mean that that's actually real. And that applies to basically everything. And that sucks. I'm not saying that that's like regular or anything like that. But that is what the plan was. You know, they wrote that in their manifesto. Like, we're going to confuse the fuck out of the rest of these beings. And one of the more horrifying parts of that is that not only is that coming to fruition, but not many are paying attention to it. So that's happening, but not many are actually like, oh shit, I don't really know what is and what isn't. I hear other people talking about it, not saying I'm the only one, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. Most see a thing and they're like, oh, that's real. It's pretty disturbing, you know. And then, I mean, even on the level of what that does to a being, it almost kind of creates little automatons, like not really thinking for self. They're just kind of regurgitating the things that they thought they saw. And some of them are very spirited about it, like, oh, this definitely happened. You definitely need to do X, Y, Z because of it. And I think it's healthy to be skeptical of basically everything now. I was kind of like that before already, but you have to be vigilant with it now, because what is it? How many things are you actually seeing for yourself? And how many of those things are you being expected to believe because of social media or because of a YouTube platform that insists on itself being a news platform? It's it's the Wild West right now. It's wild ass territory right now, because these aren't normal situations. And there's a lot of attempted manipulation right now. There's a lot of attempted social engineering on many different levels. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you may be in a bubble where everything seems great and you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But even within that, to be the thinking being, the thinking man, the thinking person, why would I be saying all this stuff if I wasn't seeing that or having that experience? So even if you are experiencing none of the things that I'm saying, that means that you're having your own bubble created for you. You see what I'm saying? That means you're having your own bubble created for you, which is just as terrifying to me. I would much rather trade with you and have like the everything's cool bubble, but I can't go back. Actually, I've never been in that bubble. That sounds pretty cool, but yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And again, I talk about how all my research ends up being connected to each other. No different here. Same thing, just as connected. And, the concept of all these channels that are being created with various types of beings kind of like in a lane, some of them are channelers, some of them are remote viewers, some of them are just like influencers that pay attention to certain stuff. one that I've noticed that I haven't really talked about that's kind of dangerous are the ones that like just kind of talk about all of these different narratives and they become jumbled. You know, galactic federations and white hats and super soldiers and all of these things. And it's not to say it, I'm not trying to say that their experience is invalid or that it didn't happen. What I am saying is if you can't or don't provide tangible documentation or evidence of those things, it's you're doing a disservice. You're potentially doing more harm than you are good by doing that, because many of those that find your outlet, that find your platform or channel, are looking for hope, or they're looking for answers, or they're looking for meaning, and you're providing that in a hollow sense. You're providing a hologram of that rather than something they can hold on to, something they can actually touch and hold. And that, to me, that's just gross. It's just kind of shitty, you know? And hiding behind the whole concept of, oh, well, this is completely metaphysical. I don't know what to do to help you or tell you. Sometimes that's acceptable. You know, I'm the first to admit that. I believe in the metaphysical, but I think that overall there's a sense of you know, responsibility to your family, to your fellow, you know, beings that you should have, where you say to yourself, you know, though I can share some of this shit or all of it, I maybe should preface it first, or say, hey, look, I'm not saying that this is the universe that you live in or the reality that you live in. I'm just sharing my experience. Even just saying that could be the difference between someone listening to you and hearing you out and just kind of thinking it's interesting, or finding pieces of something that resonates for them, and them completely losing it and doing something fucked up because they don't see hope anymore, or they're so afraid of the things that you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And, you know, we all kind of have that responsibility in a way, where it's like, if you're not having the experience that the being you're watching is having, then don't let it, you know, beat you up. Don't let it worry you. Don't let it do any of that stuff. But if you're strong enough to take those experiences in and say, oh shit, that's possible. Ugh, what can I do to prepare for that, or what can, you know, whatever it might be, then cool. You know, it also falls on the viewer to be like, you know what, this is making me real uncomfortable, or this is making me actually kind of scared. Hang it the fuck up. You know what I mean? There's responsibility on both ends. But I noticed that that's becoming an entire lane of stuff. And it's not new by any means, but it's definitely progressing. It's ramping up, you know. And it just so happens to be that these lanes don't really have to have a lot of oversight, meaning by us, by those that view them. They can kind of say whatever they want, you know. If you've got a creative imagination or a creative mind, you don't have to, like, do any experimentation or testing to, like, prove what you're saying, you know. And then to add an extra level to it, there's so many clever ways to, like, fake shit. It's kind of why I keep coming to the same answer in my head when I'm in these conversations and debates and, you know, experience sharing sessions and stuff like that. It just, much of it does not matter to me anymore. Which honestly may sound negative, but it's one of the most freeing things that I think I've come to in a pretty significant amount of time. It's so freeing to be able to say, hey, let me stop you right there. That, no disrespect, but I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. And then it's, you know, either they can persist and you can be like, all right, well, let's just stop talking. Or they're like, hey man, you know what? All right. And then you don't have to be worked up over the things, you know? Because this is heavy shit. It's kind of like existing in two different, you know, realities at one time. Because I am going to keep studying, I am going to keep researching, but a good portion of that is because I have a very specific experience where I can't just ignore stuff, even if I wanted to. I can't. There's more than one reason. I'm sure you can think of one or another, but it's both of those and probably some others too. I can't ignore it. I'm not going to. But I've worked really hard at balance, and I've worked really hard at, like, you know, trying to stay as objective as necessary and also as subjective as necessary, and understanding the physical and metaphysical. Just balance, dude. Fuck all the naming it all off, I guess. Just balance, you know? Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have more than that. I meant to have a longer video on this stuff, but I got caught up in a conversation after trying to get that live stream going. So my apologies. I'm probably gonna put up two tomorrow, two videos tomorrow. Um, I'm not just gonna be talking about movies. I don't know if anyone thought that by me kind of teasing some of the movies that I'm gonna put in the Black Goo and Anthrobots project. But I'm not. Nah, this isn't moving into a movie channel or anything like that. That's just one of many kind of playlist ideas, show ideas. I don't know what to call it. Doesn't matter. One of my ideas. Um, I also want to do another dream show soon. I would like to do that soon. I'll be thinking of ones that I want to share. But I'm also not dreaming very much lately. I have one very specific one that I'm going to share, maybe two. But if you have dreams that are interesting, um, you know, if you've listened to the other dream episodes, videos that I've done, and it's something along those, you know, veins, it doesn't have to be the same thing at all. Just something, don't just come tell me about a dream you had, you know. But if it's something very interesting, like, you know, if you had an out of body experience, cool, let me know. I might not do that because I have feelings about those things. But if it's interesting, I will put you on. Uh, yeah, so anything like that, interesting experiences, even if it's not a dream specifically and has something to do with a dream or a sensation or whatever, just whatever. If you think it applies, hit me up. Gammaauobsidian at Gmail. You can leave a comment under one of these videos. I check them all the time. Instagram, gammaauobsidian. You can hit me up there. Um, if you feel like any of these videos have been beneficial, or if you want to help out with the research that I'm doing, um, the PayPal link is in the description of the channel. Not the video description here, but the description of the channel itself, YouTube channel. Rasta Obsidian under PayPal. Um, yeah. Anything else? Not that I can think of, dog. Um, I may still do another video talking about Covenant, but I kind of think I hit that up already. You know, there wasn't like a full movie's worth, you know, of time that I needed to spend to convey those things. So I think I'm gonna move on to the next one. In fact, I'm gonna go watch that right now. If I'm not mistaken, it's either Beach House or The Seed, both of which I have seen before, but I'm doing a refresher, and they are both creepy as fuck. Oh man. So this is gonna add. This project is not just about Black Goo, and it's not just about Anthrobots. There is an entire, like, theory that's connected to the bigger theory, and hopefully watching these will give me a better way to describe it. But It has to do with divergent alternative perceptions of invasion or interpretations of invasion or possibilities of invasion, because what we've all been given is like aliens in their ships and you can punch them in the face or you can shoot them or whatever. And I don't think that that's the only possibility for what invasion could look like. I'll leave it at that. That's a good way to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I guess. But yeah, dog. Lay dog.